You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty. Filling in today for Chad Hasty, it's firearms enthusiast Steve Evans.
Triple digits across the listening area and 33 days without Kamala Harris doing a press conference. Welcome to the Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans filling in today for Chad as he set sail. We needed the Gilligan theme. We should have played the Gilligan theme. We might do that next week. We'll play the Gilligan theme for a 3-hour tour. Oh, my goodness. It's an absolute attention deficit Friday, but it's not a Seinfeld show kind of Friday. I got a little bit of prep. But happy to hear from you, 806-680-2790. Anything you want to talk about. Speaking of Gilligan's Island, someone did the math and took the type of vessel. You know, this is because people on the internet have nothing better to do. I just thought of this. They calculated the average or the top speed of the boat and went out and looked at charts and figured out how far away they could get. And in 3 hours, they couldn't get very far at all. Just the closest island, they would have been easily found within a day or two. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Oh, Chad's 3-hour tour. So, thank you for giving us a little grace yesterday as we did a best of for just no better reason than I wanted to go to I wanted to go to a dinner and hear Donald Trump Jr. I got to meet him. Very interesting, articulate, and fun individual. It was a fabulous speech. The evening was filled with lots of other speeches too. We got to hear from two individuals that were one of them imprisoned over January 6th, later exonerated by the Supreme Court. Interesting speeches. State Republican Party Chairman Abraham George was there, gave an interesting speech. Congressman Arrington introduced Don Trump Jr. That's it. Just doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Trump Jr., as we'll call him, introduced him. A great introduction, as Congressman Arrington can do. He got fired up pretty good. And great introduction, and Trump Jr.'s speech was interesting. It was not really an overly political speech. There was some politics in there. He did talk about things that his father had done, economy better, policy better. He did highlight some things from his presidency, but zero campaign promises. I didn't catch any. He didn't make any promises, but talked a lot about Donald Trump, the father, Donald Trump, the grandfather, Trump Jr.'s daughter, Kai, if I picked all this up right, is actually an avid golfer and goes and plays golf with her grandfather a fair amount when she can. Trump Jr. is the hunter, the long-range competition shooter. I didn't take it that he was as much of a golfer as his dad was. But a lot of humor in it, funny moments in the speech. Overall, just a fantastic. It didn't look to me like it was necessarily there to energize the base, but yet in that subtle way, it did. It did energize the base. He is humanizing his father. He is bringing that human quality about him center stage, and in a way that I'm not even sure that Donald Trump could articulate, but his kids certainly can. Fantastic choice to have his son out campaigning for him, and there's too many events. Everyone's trying to raise money. There's just no way to get Donald Trump's got to go hit the great big ones, the ones where he can make the largest impact. Of course, we call them surrogate speakers, the kids and others out there operating as surrogates for him, speaking everywhere they can. And it's not easy to even book a surrogate right now. My hat's off to the Lubbock area Republican women, President Susie Stell and her committee did an absolute unbelievable job. I've never seen an event pulled off like this one. They raised a lot of cash last night too. Fantastic auction. A lot of donations, and from what I understand, I mean, they are taking the money and directly impacting candidates and helping out in races for November. And that was the primary purpose. And so they're doing the right thing with the money, not just sitting on it and, hoarding it. They're helping with it. So unbelievable evening. I'm sorry, not sorry that we did a best of last night. I was going to try to get on the air with you for the first hour. I would have been late, and then turns out I got the opportunity to go get a picture and meet Trump Jr. and wonderful evening. So sorry you had to listen to Chad again, a rerun. But wonderful event. So if you got questions about last night or anything, 806-680-2790. I'd love to hear from you this evening as we embark on a attention deficit Friday, and it's bad today, folks. I was up at 4:30 this morning. Of course, it's cotton gin season, so cranking up some new plants. So got up real early so I could get my work out of the way, so I could be on the air with you today. So attention deficit is at a maximum, so I'm going to be really easy to derail. So throw your topic out there. See if you can pull it off. See if you can. What do we call it? Stump the chump, derail Steve, throw the big squirrel out there. We're going to have Nick's manly question of the week coming up here pretty soon. And I did visit with Congressman Arrington and staff last night. He is scheduled to be in studio with us next Thursday. Get an update. I know he was on Chad's show a couple of weeks ago, but we'll get kind of an update. I would like to throw a little, different questions at him. So we'll check in with Congressman Arrington and see what's going on there. He'll be back in town at the end of the week for some more fundraising events. He was straight off to, I think he told me Houston, Texas was his next stop, and he's out raising money. Everybody's raising money. And Congressman Arrington, although he doesn't necessarily need the money for November, he's raising money for others. I know he's worked to kind of help Maya Flores quite a bit. He's out raising money for the NRCC and trying to help out. So that's what you do when you've solidly got your reelection in the bag. You go help others. And anyway, hey, thanks, Mike Dalby, our commissioner-elect, weighing in today. He's on the text line. Thanks for listening. It was a fun evening. It was good to see you last night. Soon to be Commissioner Dalby, and encouraging. It was an encouraging evening, wasn't it? For something that it was political, not political. Very, very interesting. But anyway, happy to hear from you. 806-680-2790. Several kind of off the wall things bouncing around, and we're going to hit a break here in just a minute. But let me go ahead and Nick jumped. He said break. He's about to don't hit the button yet. Don't take it quite so early. It'll mess us up later. We'll have this long segment where it'll just be dead air because I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do a 12-minute segment, Nick. I'm not doing it unless I just have to. Supreme Court ruling, divided Supreme Court ruling yesterday that we're going to talk about after the break. I'm going to stretch this for a couple of minutes because I don't want to pick up a story here. Quite a few things. And, Kamala Harris, there's a story, and I don't even know if it's going to be worth talking about. But yes, her campaign manager ignoring press conferences. She has not had a press conference. Have we heard from Joe Biden? Has anybody heard from Biden since they stole the race? I mean, and literally that's what they did to him. They just took it away from him. Now, granted, we all think he's incompetent, but, Kamala Harris hadn't had a single vote for her yet. Nobody voted for her. The constituents didn't vote for her. The Democrats in the primary didn't vote for her. They just simply took it away, and it was a threat over the money. At least that's what they told the public. Well, the big donors are not going to give Biden any more money. So we have to do something different. And so Kamala Harris had to be the one, because she's on the ticket. There's some issues with those campaign dollars. They're tied up, and they wouldn't be able, as I understand it, would not be able to release all of them had another candidate jumped in the race. But all the threats, they had the Clintons, of course, threatening Biden, you've got to get out of this. Our big donors aren't going to donate money to you. We can't do this. You're not going to win. And I think that's what happened, is they got scared that he wouldn't be able to steal it again. So they had to get out. They had to replace. But haven't heard from him. We haven't heard from Kamala Harris. She doesn't need to do a press conference because she might have to speak. And then when she speaks, it's just an absolute disaster. So she can't have that. So no press conferences. We can talk about that after the break. We can look at the Supreme Court after the break. Nothing interesting with ERCOT. I thought we're gonna break some records today. It's 103 at the studio here, but no, nothing earth-shattering there. But let's take the break. We'll pick up our first story, our first topic. Your text and more when we come back, 806-680-2790. And Nick's Manly Man question of the week on the Chad Hasty Show. Don't go anywhere.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here. I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hey, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans hanging out with you today on this hot Friday afternoon. 806-680-2790. If you'd like to send a message, if you'd like to call, you can get us at 1-800-687-0790, just like my good friend, as we go to the phones. Ruckus, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty good, Mr. Evans. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you well enough.
Okay, well, there's a hole in the internet theory about Gilligan's Island. Let me explain. So, you're a sailor, correct?
I am a sailor.
Okay, well, I'm not a sailor, but I'm
I just saw it the other day.
Yeah, I'm a damn good Googler, and I did some Googling. Now, the Gilligan song says that they ran aground on an uncharted isle, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, uncharted means that it's not on any maps or any charts. Therefore, if they failed to return, then when they sent the search party out, normally if you don't find anything for 24 hours, they call it off. But they didn't find the boat, they didn't find the people, but they were looking maybe for something that didn't even exist nautically, because the island is uncharted. So if they didn't find any bodies, they didn't find the vessel, they're like, well, they must have just disappeared. And then, so the internet, it doesn't know what it's talking about.
Well, let me tell you why it does. So that boat, so actually fact-checking it while you're talking here, it was a Wheeler Playmate yacht. It had a cruising speed of 12 knots. So that's 36 nautical miles maximum. When you figure set and drift, a 10% variance, you're going to have maybe 30 miles. So any typical Coast Guard search pattern would have found them easily. And in the pictures that you see, the boat is clearly beached right out there on the beach. They would have found them. It's all hokum.
So, why do you think they were never found?
Because if they were never found, if they were found, we wouldn't have had a show. The whole premise of the show was they were lost. They were stranded on the island, and they only had the clothes on their back.
It was to make a show.
It was just a 3-hour tour. They just had the clothes on their back. Yet they were able to maintain them perfectly. They were immaculate. I don't know how they kept them so clean. And the movie star, I mean, did she travel with like a whole makeup team? She always looked phenomenal every time.
Well, it was the natives. They had special powders and herbs and stuff.
Yeah, I guarantee you none of them were versed in that. Too many holes in it, but it was a fun show. I watched it growing up. I enjoyed it very much. It's iconic. So when you hear the tune, you can't help but sing it.
I saw a couple of, I'm too young, but I saw a couple of episodes, but I really liked the other shows they used to play on Nick at Night, the Green Acres and stuff like that.
You're saying you're too young, or are you saying I'm too old? Nick was playing stuff last couple days ago that I listened to on the radio. I don't think I'm too old.
No, you're definitely not too old. It's just those kind of shows I had to catch reruns and second airings.
Well, you're no spring chicken, sir, but I think I'm a little older than you.
Yeah, you're definitely older than me, but not by much.
Anyway, my friend, outside of Gilligan's Island, what do you think about the current political climate? You've always got an opinion.
Well, so it's kind of funny because oftentimes on the radio, you hear people talk about the short attention span / memory of the general public, and that's kind of showing through because Kamala now is everybody's darling. And of course, if you listen to some of these people outside the DNC getting interviewed and like, oh, I'm binary or non-binary. I mean, they're idiots. No offense to anybody out there. No offense to the idiots, but they just, the general, I have a friend who is actually going to vote for Kamala because, Trump's a racist and Trump hates veterans and all the yada, yada, yada. And people are just getting so dense that it's easy to control them because if you tell them one thing, you get them into a mindset and all their little buddies and all their little girlfriends are in the same mindset. It's complete herd mentality. And there's comfort there, and people can't think for themselves, and it's scary to think outside the herd and outside the box. So and even if you present somebody with facts, they're going to deny it because they're right and you're wrong. And, the Democrats, everything Kamala says is an absolute lie. Tim Walz is lying to everyone right to their faces, as is Kamala, as has Biden been for the last 3.5 years. And
so, Ruckus, I'm letting you carry on for a good reason. You're making the same points that I've been making for 5 years. Our average attention span is getting shorter and shorter, largely because of social media, and I do it too. I doom scroll constantly. You doom scroll, and you're looking at stuff and 30-second sound bites and things that are taken out of context and stuff that goes by so fast and crowdsourced media, and you are actually programming yourself. And sometimes I'll sit and I'll go through this stuff and I'll find myself kind of nodding and go, wait a minute, that's absolutely wrong. Why am I even considering this as something that's is got any truth at all? And Kamala Harris, I don't know if she's doing it on purpose. If she is, it's brilliant. I think she's just this dumb. I think she's playing right into this because she's throwing idiotic sound bites out there and people are just eating it up. She's appealing to a base, and I'm going to say like Nick's age, 18 to 23 years old. Nick's like 17. Are you registered to vote yet? Anyway, so she's placating to like a new voter base, which is interesting. It's kind of in that method. I mean, there's other things that are at play here, but I don't know if she's just got a really good campaign team that's doing this on purpose or not. But it's an interesting play. I got just another minute here. I'll give you last word.
Yeah, and your point is exact. You know, we have short attention spans. Our lives are ruled by social media. And what is social media? Social media is instant gratification. What is instant gratification? It's feelings. And what are the Democrats playing on? They're playing on everybody's feelings. Oh, we're joyful, hope and change. You know, Trump is mean, hateful. Republicans want to take your rights away. We want to give you rights and make you free. And there's no policy in that. It's just we're going to do stuff for you, give you stuff, and make you feel better. And people eat it up because they don't know any better, because they were raised wrong, or they're in this modern generation that's all about feelings, and they don't really know that much, honestly, about how the real world works and how life really is. Or, hey, maybe that's how the real world works now.
Could be, I'll tell you, and it's we're about to hit a break here, but Abraham George, the new Republican Party chairman, good friend of mine, is an Indian immigrant. And not long after he took over, he was just elected, he went to the RNC as the state chair and was called a racist by the Democrat Party. And he just looks at him and says, I'm a racist. It's unbelievable. Ruckus, always good to hear from you, my friend. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay cool. Keep the lights on. Don't overload our cot. Hey, we're going to take a quick check of news and weather. I can tell you it's going to be hot. That's what they're going to tell you. But be back with your text and more on the Chad Hasty Show. 806-6802-790 is the number to send us a message, or 1-800-687-0790. If you'd like to call in, like a Ruckus did. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding the unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans deserve to know about the best services available to them. VA's new radio outreach page is a prime source for that information. The page, news.va.gov/outreach/radio, houses public service announcements that educate veterans on a cross-section of topics. That's news.va.gov/outreach/radio.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show.
Hey, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans and the Manly Man Nick hanging out with you this evening on this Friday, hot Friday. Tell you what, I am ready for the week to be over. Ready for a break. It's going to be like the first Saturday. I haven't had anything. I got a wedding to go to tomorrow evening, but I don't have anything to do tomorrow yet. And it hasn't happened in a while. So I've been somewhere doing something every single weekend, but it never fails. My kids will pop up and they'll have something to do. They just haven't hit me yet. They'll have something they need to do, and it'll consume Saturday. This is what happens when you have children. Nick, are you ready for the Manly Man question of the week? I wish we had a voiceover. I'm going to do one. The Manly question of the week. I'll only get to use it once if I do it next week. What is Nick's question of the week?
You know, I hate to admit it, but I was ill-prepared. Ill-prepared
That was
today.
my plan.
Yeah, well, hey, thank you. Hey, going along with your theme today of, what you described it, not prepared but prepared, sort of?
Well, it's not a Seinfeld show.
Right.
But it's, It's light preparations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about this then? How about my question? My question of the week is, what are your weekend plans? As we're heading into a weekend, as you said, yours is hopefully going to be a little laid back. I would agree that mine, ideally, will be the same, if nothing goes wrong. So I guess that's my question: is what are you looking forward to the most this weekend? Is it going to be busy? Is it going to be relaxing? Stressful? With family, with friends?
It's a great question.
Yeah, what's your weekend looking like?
And we might find out stuff going on that we didn't know about. Stuff happens all the time I don't know about. I wish there was like a master calendar somewhere. The master city calendar. And I know everybody, you can go to this website, that website, you can find out about, but you can't find out everything. And maybe it's too much stuff going on. But short of a wedding tomorrow evening, I've got the show on Sunday. That's it. 12 to 2 on the flagship KFYO. And that's it. I don't have anything else planned yet. Now, I told you I got up. I got up early, way earlier than I keep like even worse than banker's hours most. I don't like to go to work early. I don't. I am telling on myself. I roll into the office sometimes as late as 9:30, 10 o'clock. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not up answering emails or stuff like that long before I get here. I just roll into the office, and I've literally been glued to a desk working. I'm in shorts and flip-flops. I've been completely casual for the last 2 weeks. I haven't put pants on to come to work. It's been that casual because I'm just anchored, but I work late. It's not uncommon to be 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. But I'm just wore out. And I worked real hard today to get enough of this. We're starting up a new cotton gin. To get enough of it done that everybody felt comfortable enough to go home for the weekend and take a weekend off. That was my goal. Now, I don't know. My phone's been blowing up since we've been on the air with some of them. I'm hoping they're going to tell me when I call later that, hey, we're headed home for the weekend. That would be great to not have to worry about anything. And there are cotton gins running. We've got, globally there's a lot running, but we've got the Coastal Bend of Texas is running. A lot of plants already online processing the New Year's crop. So what are your plans for the weekend? Even if it's nothing, it's going to be too hot to do anything. I don't get to listen to the weather because the way the show works, when we go to break, we get to listen to Nick's soundtrack, and it's always good. We enjoy it. It's sometimes I'll talk about something and people will chime in like, it was just on your news, you're listening to the news on whatever station you're listening to us on, not necessarily in the Lubbock area where we're broadcasting from, and we don't get to listen to it, so we're not hearing it. So I don't know what was said, but I get that all the time. But anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that, Nick. I've lost it now. The weather, it's still going to be triple digits tomorrow, so maybe you don't want to go out anywhere. I want to stay where it's nice and cool. I have so many things to catch up on the house. I don't know that I want to do that. The one thing I don't have to do is mow because we've been in a drought now. The yard is, it's perfect. It hasn't grown any, so I'm not going to have to do that. No yard work for me tomorrow, but there's plenty of things to do. And I've recently cleaned all of my single shot shotguns, and I would like to go shoot them at some point. And so I've been trying to do that for weeks. Go take out the new single shot shotguns and give them a whirl and see that everything's still functioning. I'm still proficient with my shotgun, so I might do that. That may be my plan. Nick, you're doing nothing, are you? Are you working? You're working all weekend, aren't you? Yeah, you're going to be the lonely guy at the studio, cranking away at the log.
That's why I said hopefully. My fingers are crossed that I will not have to do that. I will have to come up Sunday, but I'm hoping that tomorrow I don't have to.
Got everything done.
Exactly. Right. And so I'm in the process. I'm going to get everything like you did this morning. I'm going to try to get everything ready, everything, tucked away so that I don't have to worry about it tomorrow. And it's a hit or miss every once in a while. You never know. Life is funny that way. So
we might have some severe weather and we have to go into emergency broadcast mode. You never know.
You never know.
Hurry up there. Got to get on the air
right.
quickly. Might happen. Nick, if you don't know, I mean, aside being the master flying the ship for the Chad Hasty Show, when you hear all that fancy automation and the way the commercials splice together and the music, Nick does all that. He's got to program all that stuff. It's not someone sitting 24 hours a day queuing up a button and running sliders up, running pots up and down. It's actually all programmed in a fancy computer. We're kind of state of the art around here at the Chad Hasty Show, so it happens automatically when Nick gets to do his job. Anyway, 806-680-2790. We've almost pulled off a Seinfeld show, 3/4 of the hour, 3 segments of nothing, a show about nothing. I have prep, but it's just fun, just chatting. 451 said, would a 3-hour tour not be shore to shore, meaning 1.5 out? Plus the return. Ooh. It could be. It could be that they were going around an island and were coming back. It could be. Well, but they got into weather. And that's the one thing is, so here's what does blow a hole in that theory. Here's where I'll let Ruckus have this as a win. It says they set out on a 3-hour tour. But then the weather got rough, and we don't know how long they were stuck in weather, unable to return. The tiny ship was tossed, so it may have got tossed around for a long way. It may have drifted for 2 or 3 days. But they set out on a 3-hour tour. So that does, thank you, Ruckus, even though this wasn't your idea, I'll give you credit for it. That does blow holes in the theory, because we don't know how long they were out in the weather. So, who knows? And it was uncharted, but I don't know. They couldn't have got that far. Unless they were in a storm for a long time. The storm caught them in some sort of weird vortex and just carried them across the Pacific Ocean. I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, let's go ahead and fire off the break. We'll do something real maybe after the break. Maybe. And Nick's question of the week. What are you doing this weekend? Something going on we don't know about. Let us know. You listen all the way out in the listened area. Something going on in your town. Abilene, Wichita Falls, Amarillo, Midland, Odessa. You guys listening down south. What's going on this weekend? Let us know. This is the Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans and Nick hanging out. Back in a moment.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Say you never give in to a meltdown and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, no, it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there.
I don't know if John Denver's right for this show. I don't know. Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans hanging out with you. It just puts me to sleep, Nick. Oh, terrible. A reminder, you've got 44 days and 23 hours or so left to register to vote for the election, for the November election. 44 days. Get it done. Get out there and get it done. 74 days, 1 hour and 10 minutes until the polls close in the state of Texas. So it's coming up fast. All right. So while we're talking about registering to vote, a divided Supreme Court yesterday afternoon granted a request from the Republican National Committee and the Republican leaders of Arizona's legislature to reinstate a state law that requires residents to provide proof of citizenship to register to vote using a form provided by the state. Seems like a fabulous idea to me. The court turned down a request, however, to reinstate the portion of the same law that would bar voters who register using a standard federal form from voting for president or by mail unless they provide proof of citizenship. That part upset me a little bit. The vote was 5-4 in a brief unsigned order. Three of the court's conservative justices, Clarence Thomas, Alito, and Neil Gorsuch, indicated they would have granted the RNC's application to fully reinstate the law. Four other justices, Sotomayor, Amy Coney Barrett, Kagan, Justice Jackson, indicated they would have denied the RNC request in its entirety, keeping in place a ruling by a federal district court in Arizona blocking the state from enforcing the law. Seems like Amy Coney Barrett's disappointing us here lately. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Brett Kavanaugh did not publicly signal how they voted, but they must have provided the two remaining votes necessary to revive the portion of the law dealing with the state form. The RNC and the legislative officials had asked the justices to act by August 22nd to give the state enough time to print ballots before the election. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993 requires states to accept and use a standard form to register voters for federal elections. That federal form requires would-be voters to swear under penalty of perjury that they are U.S. citizens, but they are not required to provide proof of citizenship. I mean, I think you should provide proof of citizenship. That's when we started the voter ID law, but now that doesn't mean anything. Anybody can get an ID. Illegal immigrants can get an ID. The Arizona law at the center of the dispute, known as HB 2492, enacted in 2022, it directs county officials to attempt to verify the U.S. citizenship of anyone who attempts to register using the federal form. If officials cannot do so, for example, because they don't have access to databases that would provide information about citizenship, why wouldn't they? The applicant must submit proof of citizenship, such as a passport or birth certificate, to vote for president by mail. In a separate provision, the law also requires anyone who registers using Arizona state form to submit proof of citizenship. This ought to be the law of the land. Soon after the law was enacted, the federal government, a group of private plaintiffs, including voting rights groups and Democrats, of course, went to federal court in Arizona to challenge HB 2492. They argued that the act supersedes Arizona's requirement to submit proof of citizenship to vote for president or by mail. The private plaintiffs also contended that a 2018 consent decree barred the state from enforcing the requirement to provide proof of citizenship to register or using state forms. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Republican National Committee, State House Senate joined the case. August 1st, a different three-judge panel reinstated the district court's order prompting the RNC and legislative leaders to come to the Supreme Court on August 8th, asking the justices to put the district court's order on hold to the extent it requires Arizona to accept state form voter registration applicants. And the rest is just a lot of blah. See what happened when you play John Denver? It just makes everything else seem boring. Nothing else will be exciting enough because you're just in this John Denver law. I almost went to sleep. We were coming back and I was about to go to sleep. Anyway. Arizona represented by Attorney General Chris Mays opposed RNC's request. Mays acknowledged the state's interest in defending and enforcing the law, but she countered that the state has an interest in smoothly administering its laws, especially for elections. Indeed, she wrote, putting the district court's injunction on hold now would be destabilizing, but the state has not been enforcing provisions, go figure, at the center of the dispute. The DNC and the Arizona Democrat Party echoed this sentiment in their briefing, observing that the relief sought by the RNC and Republican legislators would also mean people who voted for a presidential candidate by mail early this year, including the July 30 primary just 2 weeks ago, would suddenly be unable to do so. Yes. If they're not eligible to vote, if they're not a U.S. citizen, what's the problem with that? Oh, we just found out you're not eligible to vote. Well, because you voted in the primary, and now you can't prove that you're a citizen, we don't want to upset the apple cart here. And, of course, the Democrats are going to toe that line. They want as many voters as they can in the November general election. They don't care if they're registered or not. This is the play. This is how it's going to happen if Trump loses this. This is how they're going to do it. Anyway, I think every state, and so you get into this interesting argument that says, well, Congress should just enact this, complete this law. We should do a constitutional amendment or something like that deals with that. I don't necessarily want that. I believe in the states' rights, but when you have some states that cheat or their election integrity is terrible and some that are good, they're deciding national elections. There has to be a standard, and this is why it's so important to get involved in your state government, because they're the ones making the rules. The Supreme Court's ultimately going to offer their opinion, and they're ultimately going to get to decide if it's challenged. But at least it starts in the states, and we've got to shore up every single state. Worth mentioning last night when they were talking about issues when election integrity was brought up. Thunderous standing ovation for election integrity. It is the issue right now. We might get into that more in the next hour. You listen to the Chad Hasty Show on the Texas Town Square Media Network. Be back with hour 2 of the program after news and weather. You can text us at 806-680-2790 or give us a call, 1-800-687-0790. We'll take the break and be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media. Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty. Filling in today for Chad Hasty, it's cotton industry expert Steve Evans.
Welcome back to hour 2 of the Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans hanging out with you on this hot Friday afternoon. Still 103 in Lubbock. Oh my goodness. 806-680-2790. If you'd like to send us a message, happy to hear from you. Nick's question of the week. It's pretty simple. He phoned it in. What are you doing this weekend? What are your plans? Anything interesting? Sound off, 806-680-2790. Love to hear from you. It's like a Friday. Everybody's like already headed out to do their thing for the weekend. Oh, goodness. Well, we broke them yesterday. We aired a best of, and now they're just mad. They're getting back at me. We know you didn't really need to be off the air. I'm sorry. It was Nick's idea. Story I picked up... it was a day or two ago. It's kind of interesting. The Trump shooter. Gunman who nearly killed the Trump shooter. Is that the would-be assassin? The dead guy. The gunman who nearly killed Foreman. He didn't nearly kill him. Not nearly. I guess he could have. He almost killed him. I'm going to get around like, yes, he did. It was close. It was way too close. The gunman who nearly killed former President Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania last month using encrypted messaging accounts on multiple platforms based in Belgium, New Zealand, and Germany, according to a House representative appointed to a congressional task force investigating the assassination attempt. And it seems like there was, I need to look this up, it seems like there was some Secret Service members put on leave today over this. I need to pick that up here during the break. Representative Mike Wallace out of Florida, retired Green Beret, appointed to a 13-member House bipartisan task force investigating the attempted assassination of Trump, told reporters about the accounts while at the Trump Hotel, Chicago, Wednesday. One reporter asked Wallace what he and the other members of the task force had learned during the investigation and about the encrypted messages on the shooter's cell phone. See, there goes. John Denver did it to me. Now I'm yawning, Nick. I think it was John Denver. We need some upbeat music, no death metal or anything, but something upbeat. Get me cranked up here. Encrypted messages on the shooter's cell phone. We still haven't learned a lot. They don't know a lot. We haven't learned that much about those overseas accounts, he said, referring to accounts held by Thomas Matthew Crooks. We don't know. We do know that they were in, if I get this correctly, Belgium, New Zealand, Germany. Why does a 19-year-old kid who is a healthcare aide need encrypted platforms? I mean, I've got an encrypted, if you can call it encrypted, I've got a safe email account to send stuff from. Not even based in the United States, but based abroad, where most terrorist organizations know it's harder for our law enforcement to get into. The question I've had since day one. The representative then turned his attention to the FBI and Secret Service, bashing them for not saying a thing until they complete their investigation months from now. They need to be releasing information as they come across it, because this wasn't an isolated incident. The threats, said the threats are continually Iran's threats. Seems like they're mixing up stories here. I need more context there. Yeah, that one threw me too. Walton cited an alleged plot that was foiled regarding a Pakistani national who paid off a hitman to kill Trump and other U.S. officials. The New York Post reported that the FBI is scheduled to brief members of the task force on Wednesday, which Wool said he hopes will provide insight into the ridiculously flawed security detail at the Trump campaign in Butler on July 13th. Both FBI and Secret Service are conducting their own investigations into the assassination attempt, as the Department of Homeland Security Office of the Inspector General. On the evening of the rally, Crooks opened fire on the main stage, grazing Trump's ear with a bullet. Also killed rally attendee Corey Comparator, someone who we need to continue to scream out loud the name so that it's not forgotten, the person that actually gave their life in all this. Wounded 57-year-old David Dutch and 54-year-old James Copenhaver. They just went to watch the rally. That's it. Just went to watch. I know we've beat this up, but this whole thing just really bothers me to no end. I can't let it go. It's unbelievable how botched this security effort is. And, people used to believe that the Secret Service was an elite force, elite security detail, and now you look at this, it's unbelievable. They were augmented with people that, they didn't know. You hear reports that they didn't attend any of the pre-briefings. There's video footage of people trying to get the attention of law enforcement quite a while before the shot actually happened, several minutes before, plenty of time to intercede. They knew the guy was up there. How did he get past a security perimeter? Why was the security perimeter so small? How was he flying a drone? Why was there no drone footage from the Secret Service? Why weren't they flying drones? Why was there no surveillance? Why didn't the counter sniper pick him out? Because if you watch the video, the counter sniper didn't even make an adjustment. They had a sight picture. They look up. You don't even see him move the weapon to readjust. They're on target. It looks up off the scope, comes back on the scope bank. All of this just blows me away. I cannot figure out how this got botched so bad unless it was on purpose. 283 Vicky in Lubbock. This weekend I'm working at my second job just to pay my bills. I am so sorry. That is not the kind of exciting thing we were looking for, but Vicky, I appreciate that. I appreciate that you're out there trying to make a living. It's unfortunate you got to work a second job. I hate that for you. Lubbock listener, flying to Maine this weekend. Have some lobster. We're not. Nick and I are staying here. 466 drive-in movie. New Wolverine and Alien movies. Are you really going to go to the drive-in when it's this hot? I'm not. Do you sit with your 466? Text back. Do you go out there and leave your car running? I've seen people do that at the drive-in. You leave it running and stay in the air conditioning while you're watching the movie. I'm not going to do it. The drive-in. I mean, I've been a couple times, but it's not my thing. I would rather. You could get almost anything in the world now streamed right into your home. You can get same-day releases a lot of times, too. Streamed right into your home. I'm going to sit at home. I've got a pause button. I've got my kitchen. I've got everything I need. Oh, it's not the big screen. It's okay. I've got a pretty big TV. I can see it good enough. That's how I like to watch movies. Hey, I don't know. We don't go to the theater much anymore. Anyway, your thoughts on the Trump show? I know we beat it to death, but it's just one of those things that's just bothering me, because when you look at the unbelievable amount of flaws, the police, the local police force saying we're not equipped to handle this. It just blows me away. 495 says, have you seen the video? Secret Service scouts, hilarious but really sad. Is this like a short video? Is this a movie? Is this a play on somebody that was at the at this event? I'll look it up, see what I can find. 466, going on motorcycles. Are you serious? You're going to ride motorcycles to the drive? Where are you going to sit? On your motorcycle? Or I don't know. That's okay. I'm not doing that either. I'm not riding motorcycle to the drive-in. It's too hot. Stay inside. Stay cool. Anyway, I need to let this go, I guess, eventually. I got to let it go, but it's such an utter failure that almost killed Donald Trump. Almost killed him. And I'm with him. It did almost kill him. Too many things happened. One thing Trump Jr. said last night is, if you believe that there was enough coincidences that happened there, then he turned his head just right. He never looks at diagrams. He never looks at charts. Never does that, but just happened to turn to a chart to reference it. All of these strange things that happened, if you look at all that, there's no way you can deny that there was divine intervention. No way. And I believe that. I've looked at all the trajectories. And this kid must have been a horrible shot, but I don't know. He wasn't. I mean, he got the bullets in the vicinity, in the area. You spray enough ammo out there, you're going to get lucky. He got lucky enough to clip his ear. Yeah, and I get it. If he'd have been off just a little bit on his angle, he would have killed him. Taking gold up chairs and KFC. All right, to the drive-in. Nick and I are not going to do that. My wife probably wouldn't go for that either. I don't want to do it. Fold-up chairs. All right, gold up chairs. Fold-up chairs. Strapping them on the back of the motorcycle with a bucket of chicken and heading to the drive-in to watch the new Wolverine. Awesome. Have a great time. It does kind of sound like fun. Just too hot. They don't have air conditioning at the drive-in theater. Your thoughts and more, 806-680-2790. If you want to weigh in on this shooting thing, I just, I know you've heard it all. I can't let it go. I want the truth about all of it. I want to know about the investigation. I want to hear it all. I want someone to apologize. Resigning's not enough. I want someone to say, we screwed up royally. And then I want someone to say, we were told to do it. It was deliberate. Because that's what it was. It was deliberate. The Biden administration has failed us over and over. They've used the DOJ and weaponized it against the American people. The January 6th events and the things surrounding them and the people that were in prison and the ridiculousness of it all are proof. This is one more cog in the wheel of the deceit and of the failure of the Biden administration. And hey, get ready, because Kamala Harris wins. My gosh. More to talk about. More to come after the break. I'm waiting for the music, Nick. I just can't stretch this. It's like you're doing it on purpose. We're going to be back. I have no more segues into a break, Nick. 806-680-2790. Quick break. Be right back.
So true. The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Listen up. It's the fourth quarter. You're almost there. Parents, teachers, counselors, coaches, your boys just turned 18, but they need one more push. Don't let them forget to register with the Selected Service System. It's required by law, and if they don't register, they'll miss out on many important federal benefits. Say it with me. SSS.gov. SSS.gov. Let's get them registered today.
Hey, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, 806-680-2790. Thank you, 495, for that video. That's who I thought you were talking about. It's the secret, you know exactly who it's, the Secret Service agent, in quotes, Secret Service agent that couldn't seem to holster her weapon. I don't think she was Secret Service. I don't know if anybody's confirmed that or not. She didn't look like Secret Service agent to me. Look like maybe somebody from Homeland, maybe a desk writer from Homeland. So we need some extra warm bodies at this event. Throw your gun on and go. She probably only had one bullet, wasn't even in the chamber. I don't know. She couldn't reholster her weapon. I don't understand that. She didn't know how it worked. Didn't know where she was supposed to be. Calling her a DEI hire, maybe. But I would say even probably the worst hires would be better trained and better equipped than that. I don't know. Might be wrong. But even practice, if you're practicing enough, and let me tell you something, if you're carrying a weapon, you need to be shooting the thing. You need to be shooting the thing monthly. You need to know how it works. You need to know how it holsters. You need to know how to draw it. You need to know how to put it up. A lot of, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I've looked at them before. A lot of your accidental discharges happen when you're reholstering your weapon. They happen from law enforcement officials sometimes who have to pull their weapon and check them in at wherever. They take someone to the jail, book them, they have to check in their weapon. Accidental discharges happen when they're reholstering, putting their weapon back in their holster. It happens. You should be practicing with the thing. And you would expect someone who is carrying a weapon for security purposes or a law enforcement officer or something like that, especially someone who's going to be attached to the elite security detail, to not look like an idiot like that. That's just not, and it's chaos. Had they gone to the briefings, had they gone to and had the entire action plan, it would have looked like, it would have looked like clockwork. It would have looked like it was precisely executed. That's what you expect of the Secret Service. Everything is precisely executed. They go through this. If there is a live fire incident, this is how we get the president off the stage. This is how we do it. This is where you're supposed to be. This is how it's executed. This is the door that we're shoving him into. These are the people that are going to grab him. This is how we're going to grab him. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're going. All of that is worked out. There's a complete plan. And this looked like absolute chaos. I was sitting with a lot of veteran buddies when all this happened. I was at an event, and a lot of them that have actually been involved in security details like this, that are just shocked at how awful it was. They couldn't believe it. So I don't know. I just do we have a shortage of Secret Service people? Is that the problem? We talk about we've got to pull this person off this detail and give up this detail to send it. Do we not have enough? Where are we spending all our tax dollars at? We don't have enough Secret Service people to handle this? There's private security companies out there and private security officers that are way better at it than the Secret Service. I'm not sure why Trump's even trusting. Why would you even trust a government right now that's trying to imprison you? A government that imprisoned people for a peaceful protest. Why would you trust that? You entrust them to protect you. Boy, I wouldn't. I'd have my own security. I'd have a whole freaking team of veterans, ex-special forces. I actually know a company. There's a group. They're in the state of Texas. They are all ex-SEALs. They have a security company. They're really good at what they do. I guarantee you, they would have come in with the police officer and said, with the police department and in the officers on, said, let's have a briefing. Are we all on the same frequency? Are we even communicating together so that when somebody calls in a threat, we can get the high value target off the stage? The person we're there to protect, we can get them off the stage. Over a minute, and I think it was longer, over a minute and a half, this shooter was reported before the shot was fired. It shouldn't have mattered whether they were able to identify it or not. Any other time, back when the Secret Service was really good, if this had happened to Ronald Reagan, the moment that report came in, they would have all been on the same frequency. They would have been told. They would have gotten him off the stage long before they took a shot. They would have, at minimum, gotten around him and become a shield around him. Anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that soapbox. It angers me because it just looks intentional. Robert Kennedy Jr. suspended his campaign, his independent campaign. Today endorsed Donald Trump, a late-stage shakeup of the presidential race. It could give the former president a modest boost from Kennedy's supporters. He'll bring some to the table. He said his internal polls had shown that his presence in the race would hurt Trump and help Kamala Harris. In another story I was looking at, said the Harris camp wouldn't even talk to him. Couldn't even get a meeting with him. The recent public polls don't provide a clear indication that he's having an outsized impact on support for either major party candidate. Kennedy cited free speech, the war in Ukraine, and the war on our children as among the reasons why he would try to remove his name from the ballot in battleground states. These are principal causes that persuaded me to leave the Democrat Party and run as an independent, and now throw my support to President Trump. However, he made clear that he wasn't formally ending his bid and said his supporters could continue to back him in a majority of states where they are unlikely to sway the outcome. Kennedy took steps to withdraw his candidacy in at least 2 states late this week, Arizona and Pennsylvania, but in battlegrounds of Michigan, Nevada, and Wisconsin, election officials said it's too late for him to take his name off the ballot, even if he wants to. There is a clock on this. Kennedy said his actions followed conversation with Trump over the past few weeks. He cast their alliance as a unity party and an arrangement that would allow us to disagree publicly and privately and seriously. Kennedy suggested Trump offered him a job if he returns to the White House, but neither he nor Trump offered details. The announcement ended days of speculation and landed with heaps of confusion and contradiction from Kennedy's aides and allies, an emblematic cap to a really strange campaign. Anyway, a quick break. Check in on news and weather again, so you know how hot it's going to be when you go to the drive-in theater. It's the Chad Hasty Show. Back in a moment.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Well, howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder cattle auctions reporting prices $4 to $13 lower. Texas weekly direct reporting prices uneven to steady, and cattle futures were up. August live cattle futures up a couple of pennies, close at $182.57. August feeder cattle futures up 60 cents, close at $242.57. October cotton futures up, close at $71.29. September wheat futures down 9 cents, close at $5.20 a bushel. September corn down 3 pennies, close at $3.68. And September soybean futures up 11 cents, close at $9.52 a bushel. September soybean meal futures down a dime, close at $306.30 per ton. August class 3 milk futures down a penny, close at $20.66 a hundred. October crude oil futures up $1.90, close at $74.90 per barrel, and the Dow Jones up 462 points, close at 41,175. And that's market roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your commissioner, Sid Miller, and remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters. Sold.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Chad Hasty, talking the news at the start, middle, and end of your drive home and when news breaks. This is the Chad Hasty Show.
Hey, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, 806-680-2790. If you'd like to send us a message, Steve Evans hanging out with you this evening. Nick flying the ship. His question of the week, what are you doing this weekend? It's pretty simple. Everybody ought to have an answer, right? Everybody. What are you doing this weekend? Nick would like to know, because he doesn't know what he's doing this weekend, so he's going to do whatever you're doing. He's going to steal your great ideas. That's what Nick's going to do. Aren't you? You don't know what you're doing. I don't either. Nothing is what I hope I'm doing. My recent text messages suggest that that's not going to go my way, but anyway, looks like I may be working after all this weekend. At least up until I have to go to the wedding. Because I'm going to do that. Good friend getting married this weekend. Tried to talk her out of it. She wasn't listening. So I'm just going to go watch her mess her life up. No, they're good for each other. It'll be great. I hope she's not listening. She does listen up in Amarillo. I think I just got uninvited. My phone will be blowing up. But how dare you talk about my wedding? How dare you insult me like that? Lulac is upset. Just transition. You can transition and segue into stuff by yelling. Lulac upset. See, Nick, you're learning. When you get your own big-time radio show one day, you just segue by screaming at your audience. Its members, they say its members were target of the latest Ken Paxton voter fraud search, and they call for a federal probe. Ooh, better than an alien probe. The League of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC, is requesting a federal investigation after it said Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton conducted raids of its volunteers' homes this week looking for evidence of possible vote harvesting. Maybe there is some. Paxton on Wednesday announced that his office executed multiple search warrants in Frio, Atascosa, Bexar County, part of an ongoing election integrity investigation into allegations of election fraud and vote harvesting that occurred during the 22 elections. He said a 2-year investigation provided sufficient evidence to obtain the warrants. A judge signed off on it. You have to whisper that to him. You can't yell that. A judge signed off on it. Gabriel Rosales, a Texas LULAC state director, said he received alarming reports. They're alarming, terrified, elderly citizens, tiny children and babies. They were awful. They separated the children from the homes. They didn't do any of that in the South Texas town of Dilley. Is that a town? Dilley? Don't know where that's at. Whose homes were raided. Rosales said in one instance the front door of a home was forcibly broken into by agents. Some of them had their computers and cell phones confiscated. A judge signed off on it. They probably knocked first, too. What little that they're saying is that we apparently, any one of our operatives, though you're going to call them operatives and then then whine about them getting their doors kicked in, that are out there in the community, registered voters, that we have voter information that we shouldn't. There's always an interview. Our response is the only voter data that we have you can purchase at the county courthouse, so I don't know what they're doing. It's just pure voter intimidation. Paxton's office did not immediately respond to requests for comment because they're busy. Rosales said he was aware of at least 2 people in Bexar County and 3 in Frio County who underwent searches. All were Latinos. And the last 3 were current members of LULAC. Those are the ones you're talking to. You know? Don't make it out like that's the only thing they're raiding. They're raiding a lot of stuff. A lot of places, a lot of people. It was a pretty broad search warrant. One of the nation's oldest Latino civil rights organizations, at least some were separately working for the campaign of Democrat State House District 80 candidate Cecilia Castellano. Castellano was one of the people targeted in the raid. In a statement, Rosales called the searches disgraceful. Of course you did. And added that the group would not allow our communities to be silenced or our voting power diluted through such oppressive tactics. That's not what they're doing. They're not trying to silence you. They're investigating fraud. Somebody's got to do it. It's just the whole point. It's election integrity. Castellano, who's running against Republican and former Uvalde Mayor Dan McLaughlin, said agents came to her home on Tuesday at 6 a.m. with a search warrant and confiscated her cell phone. She said they did not tell her the subject of the investigation, but she believes the raid was politically motivated. I believe that I'm being targeted. Of course you do, because 2 of the 3 counties fall in my House district. Referring to the counties Paxton had identified earlier in the week, Paxton endorsed McLaughlin in the March primary. A judge signed off on it. Hearst newspaper requests copies of signed search warrants from Frio County for August 20, the day that Paxton said they were executed, and the county said that it had no responsive records. A similar information request to Bexar County is pending. The Attorney General's office was asked to investigate the allegations by the 81st Judicial District Attorney Audrey Lewis, whose district includes Atascosa and Frio counties. Lewis is a Republican. Yeah, they're just painting this as a politically motivated attack. Ever since the 21, and my goodness, doesn't come close to January 6th, does it? Ever since the 2021 ruling by the state's highest criminal court that Paxton has vocally opposed, the office can only prosecute election fraud if invited by a local DA. There'll be more that shakes out on that for sure. Does that bother you? 806-680-2790. If you paint it that way, it does. It could bother you. It's targeted. But it wasn't. They are investigating out of request from the DA. Just so happens that, some liberal organizations and individuals are involved. So they're going to cry wolf and then turn around and do the same thing. And use the DOJ to attack Republicans. Let's see. Oh, Nick, we need like an earth-shattering breaking news story. Something needs to break. Call in a bomb. No, don't do that. I can't even say that on here. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's see. Anyway, we're up against a break anyway. We'll pick out, man, it's over almost. One more segment. Wrap up the week. We come back. Last minute text, get them in there, 806-680-2790 as we come back to wrap up the week and into the weekend as Chad sails the 7 seas somewhere. I have no idea where he's at. The Bahamas, the Caribbean, somewhere, I don't know. Enjoying life while we're melting here. We'll take the break and be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
I'm Scarlett Johansson. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. You can join the movement to end hunger by donating, volunteering, and advocating. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/act now.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. We wrap up the week. 913 on the text line says, you're so right on Trump, the Secret Service. When the left couldn't impeach him, they tried to bankrupt him. When that didn't work, they tried to put him in jail. Well, that hasn't worked, so what do they have left? I don't know that I'm not going to say that it's a grand conspiracy and the shooter was involved. But I have to question, not to go back and rehash, I have to question, did this just reveal a vulnerability that was already there? Had he been getting terrible security before? And see, this is where I wish the investigation would go. I wish they had a way to look in, let's go back to other places he'd been where Secret Service worked with local law enforcement and interview that local law enforcement. Was Secret Service, did they plan with you? Was there pre-meetings? Was there a plan? Were you privy to it? Was there communications established? Was all that? Somebody needs to be asking these questions. And if we can determine a pattern of terrible security, that's one thing. But if it was just this one event, all of a sudden there's holes in security, then I might listen to your conspiracy theory that this was all planned. This was a JFK situation, 2 shooters on the grassy knoll kind of thing. But I'm not there until you prove that this was a one-off incident. And then the next question is going to be, why? Why was this a one-off? You know, why didn't he have the same security or as good a security or better than last time? Those are questions that are above my pay grade because I'm not out there investigating it, but somebody needs to be asking those questions. As we wrap up the hour, more Paxton news. Attorney General Ken Paxton has sued the Biden administration. There's so much to sue him over a policy he alleges, a policy, and remember this, policy made by unelected bureaucrats. He would allow illegal immigrants to parole in place and receive therewise unpermitted benefits. A lawsuit alleges that the Biden administration is violating the U.S. Constitution in an agency rule established on August 19th. The rule establishes the rule, again, not a law, a rule made by an alphabet. DHS is who's doing it. Go figure. Establishes a process for certain non-citizen spouses, non-citizen stepchildren, or U.S. citizens to get around federal prohibitions against certain immigration benefits being obtained until after leaving the country and returning in a legal manner, according to the DHS press release. The provisions of law established by Congress serve as powerful disincentives for individuals to come across the border unlawfully. Indeed, were they not present, there would be no practical reason for any alien to abide by the law, wait his or her turn, and only come to the United States when the law provides. Paxton's filing argues DHS has announced the creation of a program that effectively provides a new pathway to green card and eventual citizenship. In the lawsuit, Paxton requested the court grant injunctive relief to ban the DHS from implementing the new PIP rule, made by unelected bureaucrats by alphabet. These things upset me. It's like the ATF. This is how the administration circumvents Congress while the policy is on trial. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the federal government is actively working to turn the United States into a nation without borders and a country without laws. I will not let this happen, Paxton said in a press release. Biden's new parole workaround unilaterally grants the opportunity for citizenship to unvetted aliens whose first act on American soil was to break the law. The lawsuit is a coalition of 16 states: Texas, Idaho, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, North Dakota, Iowa, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Wyoming, along with conservative legal organization American First Legal. It was filed against Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas. Guy needs to go. Citizenship and Immigration Service Director, Customs and Border CBP Acting Commissioner Troy Miller, Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE Acting Director, and Office of Management and Budget Director Shalonda Young. Stephen Miller, president of the AFL, said today, "We're proud to present a coalition of 16 states in filing a lawsuit to block an unconstitutional Biden-Harris amnesty program. This executive amnesty gives over 1 million illegals legal status, work permit, and a path to voting citizenship. It's created a new voting base. It's brazenly unlawful, deadly accelerant to the ruinous border invasion, and will use every lawful tool to stop it." The lawsuit additionally alleged the PIP rule would permit 1.3 million illegal immigrants, more than 200,000 of whom live in Texas, to apply for permanent residency and thus ignore federal law. This violates the Constitution and actively worsens the illegal immigration disaster that is hurting Texas and our country, Paxton concluded. So the goal here is to first get an injunction and try to halt it while it plays through the courts. And it will play, things like this will play all the way through the courts. And hopefully, if it gets to the Supreme Court, they will again say that these policies and these rules that the agencies create are unconstitutional. They're not created by the legislative process. The biggest offender is the ATF, in my opinion. There's others that you don't know about that just kind of happen quietly, but the ATF is one of the biggest offenders of this. They just decide by policy that this is going to be it. And you ask, and I'm not going to call any out by name, but you ask ATF agents if they're going to enforce X, they're not even sure. The directives are unclear. They don't know how to enforce it. They've taken attacks on bump stocks, which are stupid, but still. That was overturned. They've gone after pistol braces. They've put companies out of business doing this kind of stuff. The bump stock company went completely out of business. Now they're legal again, says the Supreme Court. They've gone after pistol braces. They've gone after a number of things by policy, and the rules keep changing. How are you supposed to know if it's, and you're not necessarily breaking a law, you're breaking a rule, a policy made by unelected bureaucrats in the alphabet agencies. It infuriates me. 791 weighed in, said my only argument against a conspiracy is why pick such a terrible shooter for the job. Thank you, Mark. I agree. Unless it was, now look, I'm going to play into the conspiracy theory. Unless it was they were doing it so it looked like it wasn't a conspiracy. Just some idiot that botched an assassination, and if they happen to get lucky, oh well. If they were going to pick somebody good, it would have been a single shot. That most people who, not even necessarily avid shooters, but your average American hunter, could have made that shot. Wouldn't have used the evil black gun to do it. They could have made that shot. I know children that I've hunted with that could make that shot. Not a great distance. Broad daylight. Pretty decent sized target. Trump's a big guy. And all they had to do was make a headshot. Just threw that in there. A little bit of comic relief anyway. I don't know. But I just have a lot of questions that aren't going to get answered. But, stay vigilant, my friends. Stay cool. Stay hydrated. Get out there and get legal citizens registered to vote. Election's right around the corner. Enjoyed being with you today. Always do. See ya down the road, and by down the road I mean Monday. We'll be back on the Chad Hasty Show. You can catch my show on Sunday, Reason, Religion, Reality, on KFYO, KFYO.com if you're in one of the other cities listening to us. Have a great weekend. This is the Chad Hasty Show on the Texas Town Square Media Network. See you next week.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.